What's your reaction when you hear that we lose more veterans during a year than the entire Iraq and Afghanistan wars put together? What if you knew that the standard response of doctor-prescribed pills wasn't enough? What would you do about it? One veteran questioned this very thing during his own mental health struggles post-military service and decided that he would take action. It was through healthy habits and the discipline of consistent exercise that the mission of Warrior WOD was kicked off and continues to be amplified as awareness of their efforts grow within the veteran community. Join me as I talk with Philip Palmer about his founding of Warrior WOD and the science that backs the mission that's making a difference across the veteran community, one workout at a time. This is Veteran Success Story. Welcome to another episode of Veteran Success Story. Today I'm joined with Phil Palmer, founder and, the guy who started Warrior WOD. It was a program that was based towards his own findings within his diagnosis of PTSD and TBI, and where the journey led him in the world of exercise, fitness, and then how he started to share his recovery with other people through the program that he's put together. This episode is pretty interesting because we also go into the fact that he is holding himself and the organization accountable, not only through the proper means that nonprofits are supposed to do, but they're also involved with clinical studies within multiple universities in actually gauging this performance and measuring the effect that it's had on the people who they serve, their symptoms. So this is a super exciting episode. I was so happy to be able to sit down with Phil. So without clogging this up anymore, let's get right into it. Today on Veteran Success Story, I'm joined with Phil Palmer of Warrior WOD. Phil, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, man, I appreciate being here. I truly do.
No, this is, without question, I knew that you were someone that I had to have on the show just due to my own journey after the military, post-military, and sort of my own relationship with exercise, working out. I know we've talked here and there, but for the people that don't know, there was a period to where I got out. I kind of went through that, gained some weight as a service member, knew what I needed to do, but needed a gym community in order to do that. And I just didn't connect with anyone out there. And it wasn't until I found, I might catch some crap for this, but a CrossFit gym out there to where there was a heavy amount of military and law enforcement members, to where the workouts seemed very much like the ones I was used to back in the military. I know Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty. That's kind of what they were retooling their gyms out to be, is a sports performance center, the functional movement and everything. So, I mean, the workouts resonated with me. The people resonated with me. They all had that type of mindset and stuff. And it ultimately ended up in something to where going from a depressed state to losing 70 pounds over a year's time, labs and stuff looking great over at the VA. They were like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, honestly, I'm not taking any pills. I'm following the outskirts of the grocery stores, instead of buying all the processed stuff in between, and I'm just moving, exercise 5 times a week. And it's exactly what you guys are doing over at Warrior WOD: exercise, nutrition, and taking that one more step of mentorship in creating that community and that support system. So, I mean, without saying everything that you're doing there, people need to know about this. And this is why I had to have you on, Phil.
Yeah, no, man, I think you nailed it. The research backs it up, and I'm sure we'll get into those statistics as we have our dialogue, but move your body, eat what you're supposed to, and then have camaraderie. It's really a game changer, right? And so we've had an enormous amount of success helping veterans in their journey, recover from post-traumatic stress. We've seen a massive decline in substance abuse, which is something that plagues us as well. And then the reduction of suicidal ideations, that's an important piece of it as well, right? And I'm going to use this word very, very purposefully because we just got out of COVID. There's a pandemic associated with veterans taking their lives. And so when we really analyze what we're trying to do, yes, you're in the gym. Yes, you're eating well. Yes, you're talking to your quote unquote battle buddy, right? Those are great things. And there's a lot of physical byproducts. You talked about losing weight and your labs looking great, right? And we enjoy that, but where we're at, what we are hyper focused on is reducing veterans post-traumatic stress, helping them recover, helping the symptoms subside so that we can address the horrific suicide rates for veterans.
Yeah, no, that's I really, I mean, I know my own the units that I served in and stuff. Same deal. I think almost everyone out there knows, unfortunately, somebody who has taken their own life, in that way of either one of my friends, they actually put something out there and it was called the general malaise. And it was the fact of, it might not be one or two problems and stuff, but once these things start stacking and they start stacking on each other, these general problems of life, and then it's just that pressure and the amount of you're throwing, and to go kind of into some of what, we can later on in the podcast and stuff here is, cortisol levels, and you're putting somebody in that constant survival mode. And if you're not regulating it through doing something like exercise or I know cold plunges and Wim Hof breathing and stuff actually is some of the other techniques to do that as well. And what you're essentially doing there is you're training your body to deal with those stress levels. But if you look at where we live in the world now and how life is now and stuff, everyone is always, they're pushing away from that hard effort. They're like, yeah, I'm just going to go the easy path. That's just human nature. But in some of the things that we did within the military, and, specifically, I have something that just correlates directly with the deployment is a deployment that I was on. And it was whenever you took that easy path, it always ended up being the wrong way. That harder one was, it might be a little tougher, a little more sweat equity and stuff behind it. But at the end of the day, it was the right answer. And it was ultimately the more rewarding one overall.
Yeah, 100%. And I definitely agree. I saw it earlier today. I don't know if someone sent it to me or if I was scrolling or whatever the case is. But that's essentially what they're talking about. Like the initial reward on the easy path is less effort, right? But inevitably, you're going to find where a massive obstacle gets in your way. If you want to continue to reap the benefits of life, it's going to take an enormous amount of efforts, probably 3, 4, 5x of what it would have taken if you had just done it the right way. That was a little bit harder in the first place. Yes, it's going to take efforts, but you're going to level out to the point where you're being successful or you're getting the reward significantly faster, taking the hard way. The real reward, what do you want to accomplish? I want to be a millionaire. Well, if I go the hard way, I'm going to be a millionaire faster. If I go the easy way, I may get a little bank, but eventually that's all going to run out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. You got to have that foundation that's solid, because without that, you got nothing. So really, let's, I know that's just a kind of a very just so brief overview there, and I want to get back into it, but what about your background? Let's talk about just really quick, I know we said something before, you've seen some hell and stuff overseas, but you're like, hey, this story's already been told. I don't need to say this again, but I'd at least want to jump into your background and then what led you to start this effort within Warrior WOD.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was in the Marine Corps. I was a commissioned officer, and directly after graduating the Citadel, I made my way to Quantico, Virginia, and went through the school pipeline of the basic school and then Intel school, Intel officer by trade. And I showed up to my first unit, and I happened to be a male, and there happened to be a need for this thing called a MIT team that I didn't even know what it was. And so I remember checking in, and they were like, no, don't even try to check in. Don't even try to check in. You were the lucky one that drew the straw because you walked through the door when we got this request. You need to go to Camp Lejeune, and now you're going to be a part of the MIT team. I was like, okay, cool. Don't know what that is. And I show up and we're training to go and train Iraqi soldiers in our Iraqi battalion. And what we were originally told was we were going to go to Kabbalah in Iraq, heavy Shia population, and they just stood up this new Iraqi battalion. And so we were literally going to teach them how to tie their boots and BZO and march in formation, and that was going to be our deployment. And so we trained for that, and we knew the threat down in Kabbalah was decent, but we were preparing for an easier deployment than what reality was going to be. So we finally, in late 2006, we flew into Iraq, and we had one more 10-day training in Baghdad to prepare. And while we were there, I guess they realigned the MIT teams so that all Marine MIT teams went to Al-Anbar. And more specifically, they were in the midst of the battle for Ramadi. And so we all went to Ramadi. And so the dynamic completely changed. Now we're in the Sunni area. It's a hotbed for Iraq right now. Very chaotic. And the big difference was this was the first Iraqi battalion stood up. So they were in Fallujah during both battles for Fallujah. And now they're in Ramadi. And they were seasoned and they were hardened. And so, yes, the story's been told, without throwing out huge names. Jocko was there, Mike and Mansour was there, 2-4 and several of the Marines have written books about it. 1-6 and several of the Marines have written books about it. So, I'll save the dynamics of what the Battle of Ramadi was for, but we were now training this Iraqi battalion. Now, let's put this in perspective. I'm 22 years old. The only thing I have is Marine Corps training behind me. I've not led Marines yet. I didn't even have a chance to do that. And now I'm going to teach these individuals. And my counterpart was an Iraqi lieutenant colonel who was in the Iran war. He was in the Gulf War. And now he fought us during 2003. And now he's fighting in Ramadi on our side. So this is a seasoned man that had an enormous amount of experience. And I'm supposed to train this guy. And I'm supposed to advise him. And so we did that. And we found a way to partner very well. I found the dynamics of the Iraqi culture that I can use, and we ended up being very successful in Ramadi. When we showed up, we were getting complex attacks pretty routinely, right? And then, as we got through Operation Murphy Burrow in early 2007, then the Sunni awakening happened. Sheikh Sattar came to the table, all the tribal leaders started working with us, and we saw a massive shift, right? So that dynamic was, formidable for the rest of my career. Now, this is also kind of the start to Warrior WOD. While I was there, Valentine's Day, ironically enough, I got wounded. IED attack, merely a flesh wound. So, I very lucky in that regards. But I also came back with my own trauma, right? Mental health was degraded quite a bit. And I would argue no matter who you are, no matter how macho you may be in your own mind, being in that kind of environment and seeing those kind of situations, you come back a changed person. You may not, go in a deep, dark place, but you come back changed. And I absolutely did. So in October of 2007, I redeployed back to the States, and I started my journey as now traditionally what a lieutenant would do, and then eventually a captain. But the big difference was, as I recognized that I was already struggling, I knew I couldn't get help. There is a stigma, at least for the Marine Corps, but I argue probably DOD-wide, that officers and enlisted leaders do not have mental health issues. Otherwise, you're not fit to lead, and you could potentially lose your security clearance. And so I hit it. And what's interesting is, I would retire this year in May. My peers are battalion commanders and about to be, colonels, like full-bird colonels. And we all hit it. They're still dealing with some of this stuff, and it hasn't been addressed. And so I spent an enormous amount of time struggling, but what I had going for me is I was around like-minded individuals, camaraderie, and I had battle buddies, right? And we're going to use that term quite a bit. I had battle buddies that were there to support me. And so, yes, I was struggling. In many active duty, many veterans, a lot of first responders, they find ways to cope with their problems. And they go, many of them go the chemical route, whether it's drugs or alcohol, right? I went a chemical route as well. Mine was adrenaline. And so I started skydiving. It started off as, I'm going to do this once and never again. And
then you're riding that dopamine trail. Okay.
Yeah, every single time. And the beauty of it was, for that minute of free fall, nothing hurt, mentally or physically, right?
Yep.
It was just freedom. And so it started off as one, and I got my license, and then it was like I'd do a couple a weekend. And then before I really got past it, I was doing 20 a weekend. And if I didn't do that, if it was on, a rainy weekend where we couldn't skydive, on Monday, I couldn't function very well.
Oh, man.
So I was doing this while I was on active duty, and that was my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
2013, I get out of the military, and I saved the rest of my resume because it's not really applicable. But I get out of the military in 2013, and I finally feel secure enough to go and try to get help. And because we have the VA, I was at the VA, and their solution was antidepressants and talk therapy. Now, what was interesting, and I remember this conversation really well, again, way back in 2013, but I'm talking to this doctor. He's like, hey, I'm going to prescribe you some antidepressants. If the first one doesn't work, in 3 more months, we'll rotate it if you're not seeing a change. And then if that doesn't work, because everybody's chemical makeup is different, and antidepressants work differently for everybody, right? And I was like, okay, cool. The whole white coat syndrome, he's the doctor, so I'm just going to trust what he's saying. And so go if the first one didn't work, go to the second one didn't work, get on the third one, and I look at the adverse effects. I shit you not. It literally said could cause suicidal or homicidal ideations. Wait a minute. This medicine is what you're prescribing me to help me with my mental health, but yet it could cause the worst part of mental health to come true. I could hurt somebody else or myself. That's the solution. And so at that point, I knew something had to give. And I completely dropped the antidepressants. And I'll tell you, go a step farther. Talk therapy. I'm sure it is, changed. I pray that it actually has changed since I went through it. But I remember sitting down, and I've gone through a couple of them, but, I finally made a decision. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be open, and I'm going to tell this person. It was a younger lady. I'm probably just graduated her training in her school, did not serve. And so I start talking about a situation that happened in Ramadi. And as I'm talking and telling him the story, I see that she's tensing up. She's getting nervous. She's feeling fear. She's like, what I'm telling her is scaring her because she's never heard anything of that magnitude. And then I spent the rest of my therapy session comforting her.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm done with this. Now, coincidentally, this was not planned, but, now this is about 2 years after I got out of the military, and I'm feeling a little sluggish. And, I was like, man, I got to get back in the gym. I wasn't gaining weight, but I just felt icky. Yeah, I guess that's the best word for it. I just needed to go and move. And so I Googled gyms near me. And like you, a CrossFit gym popped up that was literally a mile from my house. I was like, perfect. I don't know what CrossFit is, but perfect. I could run there, work out, and run back. And it was beautiful. Now, I'm not going to talk about the modality. And by the way, for your listeners, so that you don't get mad at me, I'm not part of the cult. I appreciate the community that they've built, right? Yeah. And so I walk in, and like your situation, there were a lot of first responders and military and veterans there as well. But the first thing you see is an American flag, the Marine Corps flag and the Army flag, and all the branches are represented. Then you had the green line and the red line and the blue line. And so now first responders are represented. And it just so happened that that first day I was there, they were doing a hero WOD. I couldn't tell you which one it was, but they were doing a hero WOD. And I remember finishing last, literally finishing last, and the gym erupted. I got the loudest cheer when I finished. And I was like, wow. Now, the workout sucked. It was miserable. I hated it.
All those hero workout ones are terrible.
Yeah, but you know what? The community that wrapped themselves around me made me come back.
Yeah.
And I remember this old guy coming up to me and said, hey, if you're not, give me your number. Okay, I gave him my number. He's like, if you're not here tomorrow, I'm going to call you. And I showed up the next day because he was holding me accountable.
Damn.
Right? And so I did that for, I started getting really big into it, started working out, started showing up. And because I was working out, now I wanted to change my nutrition. And so that's happening. I've got this camaraderie aspect happening. And over a course of a year, I didn't feel the need to go skydiving anymore. I still did. Did because it was enjoyable. But I didn't feel like I had to do it. And if I missed a weekend, if I had another obligation, I was fine on Monday. And I wasn't on antidepressants anymore. And, what was happening while I was on antidepressants, it was literally a chemical lobotomy for me. Again, everybody's a little different. I got a divorce. I got a divorce during that time. And occupationally, I was plummeting. If I was the leader of me back then, I would have fired me. And all of my relationships were just falling apart. And it had to change. And then we get through.
How did that, like, just really quick, just to, because I'm sure there's other people out there that they get it. They understand. Like, I know, like, for me, that seemed like that kind of fog almost, to where it's just like you're working through and it's just like a struggle to kind of that clarity's not there. The mental clarity's not there. You just feel like you're fighting against your body a lot. But like, how's this stuff manifesting for you? I mean, I'm sure a lot of the same stuff right there. Like,
yeah. And ambition and desire plummeting.
It's a lot of couch time then.
A lot of couch time. People would call me, hey man, we're going out. You need to come with us. And my friends recognized it. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm just going to sit here. And there was a lot of self-doubt and, ambition was gone. A lot of the same things you said, like it was the fog where I couldn't even I would try to read something like an email and I couldn't get past like the first two sentences, and just that fog was there. Everything was, I couldn't pay attention when people were talking to me. I felt like Charlie Brown's mom was talking to me. That's a good way to put it, right? So yeah, man, like that chemical lobotomy is real. And for some people, again, I'm not an MD. We talked about this earlier. I'm not an MD. I don't have a medical degree at all, but I can tell you it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah. And that's like, when did you start to see that like lift throughout there? Because I know, again, like you get those dopamine hits and stuff, you do a hard workout and stuff there, or like you start to finish where they have that leaderboard, they make it almost a competitive type thing. And a lot of military, we're competitive. Oh, yeah. So it naturally kind of speaks to us and like, man, I got to be improving because I'm jumping up the leaderboard. Yeah. When did you start to kind of have that fall away for you anyway?
Yeah, so I made the decision that I was going to get off of antidepressants probably very early into doing CrossFit, right? And I think immediately a lot of that fog that you talked about happened. But I don't know, probably 6-7 months into it, all of a sudden, I noticed that things are feeling good.
Yeah.
And soon afterwards, I met my current wife, and I remember, and she said this at one point, and this is not a humble brag, I promise, because I am not the same physique that I was back then. But she looked at me and said, I've never been with someone that was so cut as you. And I was like, wow. Wow. And now that had nothing to do with my mental health, but it had everything to do with my mental health, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm quote unquote attractive. Now, everybody's attractive in their own ways, right? But I started feeling it. I started now wanting to go out, and I made new friends, like true.
There's a trickle effect of all that. There's a trickle effect to all of that. I mean, there is that whole, the mind body, and you start to feel more, you catch a compliment like that. And then, a lot of times, especially if that's not really your goal, there's people that are into it aesthetically and stuff. But if that's not your goal, and you're just either competitive within your gym class, or you're just like, man, competing against yourself, I want that new PR, or it's, you're improving your run times, or you set a goal for yourself. It starts to give way. I mean, it gives way to bigger goals, and you start aligning yourself with these other people and stuff. But these changes start to be noticed.
Yeah. And so, that dynamic happened, that year, 2015 was a crucial year. And I recognize this helped me. Now, this is not, this is part of the catalyst to Warrior WOD, but I didn't have a clue at this point. Mm-hmm. So I'm living in Houston. After I get out of the military, I moved to Houston. And finally, I meet my wife. What an incredible woman. But I meet my wife, a Texan. So let's put that in perspective. I'm in Houston. I'm now dating a Texan, and we're talking about getting engaged at some point. And I got promoted. Again, I was struggling occupationally. Now I'm doing very well. And I get promoted to regional leadership, and I can live anywhere in the Southeast. Well, me being from Charleston, South Carolina, because Charleston is the best place in the world.
There you go. Shout out.
I want to go home. And then my grandfather was aging. He passed away a year ago. Marine as well. 3 tours in Vietnam. Got a high and tight. While he was at end of life facility, he asked for a high and tight, and he died 2 days later.
Oh man!
And so to the day he died, he was still a Marine.
Yep.
Right? He did 50 plus years of Toys for Tots. Think about that. This is the that just remarkable man, my role model, and I knew that it was getting close to the end of time, right? I knew I only had a few years left. And so I wanted to come home for that reason too. Not only because Charleston's an amazing place, but I had family in it, and I wanted to cherish the last little bit of time. And so I remember walking in and looking at my now wife and said, I just got promoted. She was like, oh, congratulations. What's the new pay? Blah, 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 blah. We talked through that. I was like, hey, I can live anywhere in the Southeast. I would like to move to Charleston. Do you want to come? Now, I'm talking to a Texan, and a Texan is a Texan that loves Texas, and that's the only place in the world that is relevant is Texas.
Yeah.
She goes, yes. Without missing a beat, yes, she's been there one time in her life.
That's how you know you're special.
So we moved to Charleston. This was in 2019, and this is where the catalyst really starts happening. It was June 2019, and as a CrossFitter, that, by the way, still not in the cult, part of my checklist of what I'm going to do in this move was find a CrossFit gym. And I found 3 different gyms that were relatively close, and I messaged all 3 of them. One never responded. One responded well after I got there. In Ironbridge CrossFit, Shannon and Donnie, amazing human beings to their core. They messaged me back and said, hey, come on in. We would love to have you. And this is talking about the community, let us know when you get there. Myself and all the coaches will come and help you unpack.
Oh,
never met me. Never even met me. And so we moved June 19th, and then the next day, obviously I went in and did a workout. I remember finishing the workout, and Shannon walks over to me and says, hey, you're a veteran, right? I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I did a little bit of Facebook stalking, so you're a veteran. Every 4th of July, that whole week, we do a hero WOD every single day. And it's different. We're not doing the Murphs or the Chads. We are doing homegrown, right? Do you have anybody that you served with that you would like to honor with a hero WOD? And I was like, absolutely. One of this amazing human being that I went to the Citadel with, named Josh Booth, was killed October 17th of 2006, the same day that I got into our body. And, had so much respect for him, even when we were classmates and when we were at the basic school together. Human being is just like, this human being is an amazing person. And so they put together a workout that was very grueling. I gave him a little bit of information about him, and it's a tough workout. And so we did this workout, was July 3rd. That was when they scheduled it. And Shannon approaches me again and goes, "Hey, listen, go talk to that dude over there. Just go talk to that dude. I think you need to talk to him." At this point, she's learned a little bit about me and my background.
Yeah.
And so I walk over and I was like, "Hey, I'm Phil." Shannon said I need to talk to you. He was like, "Hey, I'm Justin. Thank you for allowing us to honor Josh today. That was incredible. I would really like it if you came back tomorrow and did my brother's workout next." So, and so I was like, "Man, tell me a little bit about Nick." He's like, "Well, he's my older brother, and he was in the battle for Fallujah. He got wounded with a mortar. Frag hit him in the head. He came home as a Lance Corporal and got out of the military. And then the VA gave him antidepressants. And the antidepressants wasn't enough. And so then it was antidepressants plus a 6-pack of beer. And then that wasn't enough. It was antidepressants, beer, and shots of whiskey. That wasn't enough. Then it was a 5th of whiskey. And that wasn't enough. And then he transitioned to drugs. And then he went up the ladder of how hard the drugs were. 10 years later, he takes his life. And Justin, admiring his big brother, this war hero in his mind, starts following that same footsteps. And when Nick took his life, Justin turned everything around and got into the gym. And he started working out. And I'm hearing this. I was like, man, that's where my journey could have gone. That's where I could have gone.
Yeah.
And so
you saw those correlations.
Yeah, and it started like percolating a little bit at this point. We're still not ready to pull the trigger on it, but I'm starting to think about it, and I'm interested and I'm curious, and I'm naturally a curious person, and start talking to people with the kind of intent I want to understand their story and how working out has helped them. And I would say, and no, I haven't polled. This is 100% Kentucky windage here, but probably 10% of the gym struggled, and being in that gym is the difference between them being alive or not, or being in a drunk state most of their life, or that's how they got past their anxiety, depression. Like, I started hearing these stories of, hey, I was on the path to take my life, and I walked into this gym. And I don't think it's necessarily Iron Bridge. Iron Bridge is an amazing gym. I would argue that probably 10% of any gym, if that person didn't walk through those doors, would no longer be with us.
I do think that there's definitely something to be said for iron therapy. I know quite a few guys myself, as well as my old first sergeant in one particular unit. We had a 50+% casualty rate, and he blamed a lot of this stuff on himself. It was him fighting these demons of that end of things, along with everything else, along with his service career. He retired as a command sergeant major. He's just got that whole sea bag of baggage on his back there that he's carrying along. And unless you have a community there with you, and that's where he found some of that himself, was in the gym, and that's one of the things that he continues. He's like, I'm fighting through the demons through iron, man. I'm just pushing him away with that, and that is what keeps him on that end, keeps him off the medication, keeps him from drinking, keeps him on that path of, fulfilling that point what he's missing, but in a productive way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Right. There's so many benefits, and we'll get to some of the nerdy stuff here in a few minutes. But iron therapy, I love that, and I'm going to steal that as well. So
Go for it.
That's a perfect way to describe it. So, fast forward into 2020, and we know the pandemic had a significant strain on people's mental health. They were isolated, they were by themselves. The enjoyments of life were taken away from them. And there was fear. There was fear associated with it. And so mental health took a huge toll. And I remember I was actually working out, and I picked up my phone, and I saw a text message from a buddy, and it said that, one of our friends had taken his life. I was like, man, no longer am I going to be on the sideline. I'm not going to be on the sideline with this anymore. I have to do something about this. It's one thing to, look at it and go, man, I wish that was different. But I was past that piece of like, I'm going to contribute to try to make this different. And I didn't know what the hell a nonprofit was and how to set it up. Yes, I knew what a nonprofit was, but I didn't know like the inner workings of it. And I started doing some research, started formulating what we're going to do. And, I knew for me and I knew for Justin that exercise, nutrition, and camaraderie was what got us past it. And so we went into and joined our board for a little while. And it started very, grassroots, a couple of gym bros working out together that formed this, right? We've matured significantly since then. But in June of 2021, we finally got started. And that first year, we had two veterans. And I was paying out of pocket because we didn't have the maturity to get grants yet, and nobody knew who we were, so nobody was donating. I was paying everything out of my own pocket.
Yeah.
And so that was 2021. And working with those two, we started seeing just drastic differences in them. So it was like, okay, validation increase. That next year, and now I also want to say very clearly, we never meant to be national. We're going to be our backyard, Charleston, South Carolina. And then, I told a buddy who told a buddy who told a buddy. And the next thing someone from, I think the first one was from Delaware, actually. And we're like, you know what?
Yeah, we talked very early on. I think we first talked in 22, I want to say. Yeah. And I think I said something to you about this. Is I was just like, man, I am really excited because I see the potential here and I see where this is going and everything. So, I mean, I get like even right now, I'm getting the goosebumps from you talking about this just because it's been so cool to see this go from that grassroots movement that you built, and that has that proper foundation. You put some real thought behind this. You saw it working at a very small level, and now you're just scaling up, and it's something that's awesome to see. But I mean, don't let me interrupt though, man.
No,
please interrupt.
So 2022, we helped 13 veterans, and then half of those from my bank account. And then, people started donating. And I think we got like $1,000 grant at one point. Now, let's put this in perspective. It costs about $1,500 per veteran. And I'm just talking about program costs. I'm not talking about our website domain. I'm not talking about insurance. I'm not talking, nobody's getting paid at this point. Nobody at all is getting paid. And so about $1,500 plus all the overhead associated is what it costs to run our program. And so 13 veterans in 2022. And now I was like, after the first two went through, I was like, we've got to put something behind this. Like, I want to measure this. And so you remember, and I remember, we would go on a deployment on the way home. First sergeant would drop off, 3 pieces of paper, 20 questions. It's called a PCL5. And you would answer it 1 to 4 or 0 to 4, how severe it was. And then it would go in a folder and maybe somebody looked at it, right? That's called the PCL5. It's kind of universal behavioral health. Post-traumatic stress checklist is what the PCL5 stands for, right? And so we adopted that, and we started on our application. They would fill it out, and then every single month afterwards, until they graduated our program, would fill it out. And so now I'm able to trend it by veteran, by year, and so we're starting to see some results. In that first year we tracked it, we saw a 19% reduction in post-traumatic stress symptoms. Now, under there was 4 subcategories associated: avoidance, intrusive memories, reactions, so emotional and physical reactions. And so we're tracking all of this, and we're seeing the needle move. Now, the one that hit me hard, and I remember thinking about this in 2022, was one of the questions is, have you lost enjoyment in things you love to do? Mm-hmm. We saw the biggest improvement in that one area. Now, this is an important part that, when we get into 2023 or 2024, we'll talk about that again. So 2023, we helped 110 veterans, and the trend continued, right? But what was beautiful about it was not And I stayed corrected. It was 18%, not 19%.
Yeah. Still, I mean, that's SSRI numbers. That's the same amount that you get from prescribing something, but you're talking about staying off of these prescriptions, getting into exercise, and you're seeing the exact same results. And this is stuff I've actually seen from Huberman and stuff too.
Yeah. But you're also getting the physical aspects of it as well. Those byproducts. Without the fog, without social isolation, all the byproducts is what we really see that it was beneficial. So 2023, 29% decrease.
Oh, wow.
Let that sit in. And then we started tracking substance abuse, 15%, right? 15% decrease in substance abuse. It's hard to go and get your iron therapy in the morning if you're hungover, right?
Yeah. We're high.
Start really prescribing to nutrition. That tends to be one of the things that fall off. It's empty calories. It's liquid calories that, dehydrate you and has a lot of adverse effects. And you start realizing that as you go down your journey of nutrition. 2024, 110 veterans again. And so it was 29.7%. So roughly the same thing. So now we found a program in the way that we've orchestrated this, that's working. But here's what's beautiful. We had 9 veterans that came to us after the program in their own ways, without solicitation, said, "Hey, listen, we just want to tell you, I was thinking about killing myself. I had suicidal ideations before your program." Now, every one of them, and they're from across the country, they don't know each other. Each one of them said this word: "I have found joy in a purpose." Joy.
That's big.
Go back to that question where I was like, have you lost enjoyment in the things you love to do?
Yeah.
We're giving joy back. That is just remarkable. And I remember one in particular, Afghanistan veteran from Florida. He actually works for the VA. So he knows all the resources and all the programs that he has access to, and he knows how to get through the red tape. And this was November of 2023. He applies to us. Our next class starts, and now we're operating in classes because it was getting kind of unmanageable to do each one individually. So we just put them in classes and start.
Okay.
Time. Again, they're across the country, but from a logistical admin perspective, it's just so much easier to control. And so he starts.
Now, just really quick to just talk about that. Like, I'm just trying to. So, like, you went from, is there like a specific time where you're like, hey, this is like, this particular class is more based towards Warrior WOD at this particular time period?
Yeah. So the way our classes work is right now it's once a quarter. We review all applications and they all start and finish at the same time. Now they're all over the country, and because we are remote, we operate from a remote standpoint. They go to the gym of their choice, right? Mm-hmm. And then we pair them up with Battle Buddy, and they meet with them, and our nutrition coaches are remote as well. But generally it's 40-ish veterans that all start at the same time. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. I was wondering for the fact of like, there is power in that too. Like, I mean, you're, where you're going from that individual side and where workout, doing the workout, the exercise, the nutrition, but building the community part, that's where that force multiplier is. And that's where you're getting those like-minded people together. And I was just curious as to if you have these people, you're almost growing your potential exponentially when you start doing that, just because of placing these people together as well.
And they do interact remotely. In any given class, we will probably have 15, 20 different states that they're all from. So they're not geographically located, but we do have webinars that they're on together. We've got class calls, and we're still building that out to be more robust so that they feel that community close together. And that's something that our team is actively trying to make better. We know it's good now, but we could always get better. That whole always improve your fighting position.
Small improvements over time. Yeah, it makes a difference.
But yeah, this individual, He applies in November. He's going to start January 3rd. January 3rd. And I didn't know, what was going on in the dynamics, but he's part of the program. He goes through, he starts up a social media account for his journey through Warrior WOD. He's got like 15 followers, and I was 2 Warrior WOD in my personal account, right? So not, massive, but I'm watching it and I'm seeing just a changes, the way he's posting. I'm seeing on his surveys, again, we do that PCL5 every single month. And there's other aspects of the survey, but I'm seeing a difference in him. Now, he's geographically away from me, so I'm not actually engaging with him all the time. Fast forward, so he graduates in June, the end of June, and he calls me randomly in August. He's like, Phil, man, can I just get a few minutes of your time? And I thought, and he was like, I want to give you, my take on Warrior WOD. I thought I was going to get a little bit of feedback, and this call took 2 hours, and it literally put me in tears. So he tells me, I lost 30 pounds and I lost a large percentage of body fat, right? And I forget exactly how much, so I don't want to misquote it. But, physically, I just ran my first 5K. I haven't ran since I got out of the Army, all of these things. I was like, man, virtual high five. How does that make you feel mentally? And he's like, I'm on cloud 9, dude. Like, I'm good. He's like, here's the real reason I wanted to call you. Let me tell you about where I was when I applied. So on Christmas, just 9 days before he started our program, on Christmas, he has a 2-year-old daughter. Or at that time, it was 2 years old. I think she's 4 now. My daughter's about 2 or 3. So this is really hitting hard for me. On Christmas, his wife and daughter in the other room trying to open up Christmas presents that he bought. What father doesn't want to be a part of that joy? I just went through it where Christmas was real for my daughter, and I finally understood why Dad said, I don't need anything. I just want to see you open your presents, right? Because it was real. He's in the other room. He's in his bedroom, and his wife and daughter's opening up presents. He has a pistol in his lap, and he's contemplating taking his life. I don't fault him for that. His demons, his pain was so bad that he would rather take his life than deal with it one more day. He thought that was the best solution for everybody. Oof. Just a few, feet away from his wife and daughter while they're opening up Christmas presents.
Yeah.
And he was like, I was close, man. He was like, the only thing that changed, the only reason I didn't do it, I didn't know what Warrior WOD was, but I knew I had this program coming out. I was like, there could be hope. There could be hope. That's not like saying that, he knew we were such a great program that he was, willing to give it a try. No, he just had an ounce of hope, just an ounce of hope that in 9 days, it could be the change of his life. And he goes, I said, I can wait that long. And then it was, I could wait one more day. I could wait one more day. And that turned into, I could wait one more week. And that turned into, I could go one more month. And it was like, I don't need to wait anymore. I'm good.
Yeah. And you were the catalyst for all this with Warrior WOD.
Purpose. Right. And for the listeners, guys, like, listen, it's just a gym membership. No, bullshit. It's changing and saving lives. It's
so much more.
Changing and saving lives. So this year, 2025, we've got funds for 120 veterans this year. We're hoping to get more. And I'll tell you this, and this is a plug now, a nonprofit, we need talent, treasures, and time, right? I need volunteers. I need people that are willing to donate their time. But we also need treasures. And that's the only way we can function. It's not like we're selling products. For us to save lives, like in the manner that we just talked about, we need people with generous hearts that will enable us to do our mission. And if you want to be a part of that mission, we need people that, I'm a dumb Marine guys. Like, my favorite color crayon is red. And so I need everybody that's listening to this has a talent that will be able to help us that I don't have. And so if you want to give me your time and talent, we need that as well. But for us to do this, we need people to step up to be heroes for our heroes.
And that's one of the things I noticed on on your site and on your social too. It's like not just you're not out there, yes, occasionally they ask for donations, but it's like, look, there's other ways to donate. You can volunteer, you can come be a part of this, come see what we're about. Here's where we're going to be. Here's the event, please just donate some time. And again, like people are what makes all of this community up and stuff. Everybody has something different to offer. You might be able to spare a few bucks here and there, but if that's not where your strong suit is, absolutely get onto the website and, donate some time. By the way, that's warriorwod.org. And I'll post all that stuff in the, I'll actually go through that in a minute, but I'll put all that in the descriptions and whatnot. But that's, the community you're building there and the possibilities through this. And you said 120 this next year?
Yeah, that's the hope. Now, if we get enough generosity and, when we apply to a grant, there's no certainty behind it. So there is abilities for us to grow that number as funding comes in. But yes, right now we're looking at 120 veterans. Now, I will add to what you were just saying. We also need awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for your listeners, and I've done this in a packed room. And so I know that every hand will go up at some point. Everybody that's listening, I think everybody universally has this dynamic. Have you yourself struggled with post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, or somebody that you love? Yes. So most people will say yes. Have you dealt with substance abuse? Loved dealt with substance abuse?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm confident most hands would go up. Have you yourself contemplated taking your life, attempted to take your life, or someone you love contemplated, attempted, or actually succeeded in taking their lives?
Yeah.
And this dynamic is real. It's not just for veterans. It's across the board. We talked a little bit about it earlier. I think every demographic has a mental health issue in some capacity. And every demographic has a suicide problem at some capacity. The reality is that every listener here is very likely to have either themselves a need to be a part of our program or someone they love that has served our country, that deserves the quality of life that they should get for their service to our country, needs our program. And so we need awareness. And I urge everybody, go tell a few people. Maybe, that spiderweb network will lead to somebody that needs us, that is contemplating suicide, or that spiderweb network of yours, that game of telephone will lead to somebody that has the capacity to be very generous so that we can go and save lives.
Well, and really, if you look at the health problem, not only the physical but the mental health problem around America as well, a lot of that is tied to a lot of things that you're combating through Warrior WOD and the techniques and through the program that you've developed there. You're just kind of doing what someone, from the military and stuff does. You're leading from the front, and this is something to where I would think would translate over to a lot of the rest of society. It's just a segment of society, a segment of the community that's doing this to great success. And you're leading the way on that. Yeah. And one of the other things too, and I just want to put this in there as well, is how I kind of feel you set yourselves apart from that is the fact that, you're developing the program, you're constantly improving, but you want to go a little bit into as well on how you've partnered with the university in a way of like clinically measuring this and putting these down as measurable results and actually tracking this. So, I mean, this isn't just something to where this is a feel good program. Like this is we're measuring our results here. We're actually coming with numbers and we're seeing what's effective here, which is that right there to me is huge.
Yeah.
A lot of them out there can't say something like that.
Yeah. So, we were very lucky in this sense, a individual from the University of Kingston in London, and then, kind of coincidentally at the same time, a individual that's a researcher at the College of Charleston approached us on their own. And they said, hey, listen, we love what you're doing. We would like to study your program and put together a research journal article that really highlights what y'all are doing. But with that, we're going to actually have to do a study, right? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And then, they started working together. And what I learned over time was there's individual research on exercise and the effects on mental health. University of South Australia 2 years ago published a journal article that concluded it was the biggest research of its kind, just a massive population of people that they studied in this, that working out twice a week, just a regular workout routine, is 1.5 times better than antidepressants and talk therapy combined. Published article, right? And there's probably hundreds of articles that conclude that, whether it's talking about the chemical hormones or the releases of the chemicals that's natural to our bodies, or if it is, the confidence piece, we're seeing massive improvements just in exercise. Another research concluded that, then I'm going to be very layman's terms, stop eating the stuff you're not supposed to, eat the stuff you're supposed to, reduces anxiety and depression by 37%, right? Just eat well. And then when we look at camaraderie, mentorship, socialization, they have equal kinds of results. But they're all independent. And so they approach us and said, listen, we want to see what happens when you layer it on. We've not seen a program like yours before. We want to see, when you put all three together, the magnitude of improvement we can have. And so we went down this path, and then they've started this, and then we had Medical University of South Carolina get involved from a funding standpoint. They're backing us as well. And here's the hope, guys. From a organizational standpoint, selfishly, we wanted to help us build the validity and credibility, right? And the awareness as well. People are going to read this article and this study that's going to be backed by a scientific journal, right? And all the demands that are associated with that. Unbiased too. I mean, that's the thing. They're collecting the data. It's not us collecting the data. And here's the real hope. The problem that we're facing, post-traumatic stress, 1 in 3 veterans have some form of post-traumatic stress. Substance abuse, the veteran population has a massive substance abuse problem that's unequal in a higher magnitude of our civilian counterparts.
Yeah.
From COPD, obesity, homelessness, all those are aspects of the veteran problems that we face, and most of those is significantly higher than our civilian counterparts. The suicide problem. Veterans are 1.5 times more likely to take their lives.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but it's not lost on me, other populations have the same thing. And so I hope they publish it, and I hope other demographics and focus areas, they look at this, and I don't care if they steal the idea and say that they created it themselves. Go save other lives. I'm going to continue to focus on veterans. But this approach works regardless of what your demographic is. We see nurses, high issues with mental health, lawyers, doctors, first responders, and in all of these areas, we're seeing mental health issues. Let's go save more people. And my hope is that through this effort, we can indirectly save more lives, because somebody's going to steal this and run with it as well.
Yeah, but this is actually a lot of the same. My wife is, she's former Air Force and is now working as a first responder in the nurse capacity and stuff. But the exact same, like those same problems that we face as veterans, they're seen in those communities as well. So, I mean, there's carryover on it. Oh, yeah. There's definitely carryover, and there's a lot of, I would say too, almost argue to say that there's a realization of this crossover, and there almost seems to be a bit of a shift within the veteran community to kind of, and vice versa, the first responder and police community as well, to kind of almost work hand in hand here, because they're realizing that a lot of this is, in some cases more extreme in the first responder. Some of the things I hear about from my wife, and I'm just like, man, she gets home and what do you need tonight? Because it's almost been flipped on its head the other way around there.
Yeah, I've got a buddy that lives in my neighborhood. He's a sheriff here in Charleston, and him and I were sitting around talking one night. This has been a little bit of time, and it wasn't like trying to compare who had it worse, but we were just being sincere and honest about the dynamics associated with mental health. And you and I, we deployed whether it was 7 months, whether it was a year, 15 months, whatever time domain. And we were inoculated into those kinds of issues. But we come home and then we have downtime. This guy, he works his shift. He sees the worst of humanity in our area. Everything from, somebody taking their own lives to pedophiles to everything, right? And he sees the worst of humanity. And then he has to walk into the door and look at his wife like nothing's happened. And then he goes back and forth. He doesn't get a break from it. We get a break from it. And so that dynamic is real too, right? Like, and my heart goes out to those individuals. I got another buddy. It's not SWAT, but it's Charleston's versions of SWAT. And he had to take a life not too long ago. The person who drew a gun on him, he took the life. But as this gentleman is dying, he's trying to give him care as well. And now he has to go and walk the same quote unquote beat, days later, right? And it's just, my heart goes out to them.
It is that's a heavy, man, especially in that police community there. What was coming to mind, when we were just talking about that, was a friend of mine who I served with. He went out and was a prison guard, different capacity than walking a beat. But at the same time too, he called me up and talked to me about it, but he was like, I was in line at the grocery store and all of a sudden, like I heard a familiar voice behind me and there was one of the former inmates, just saying hi. But at the same time, that spike and that on guard. And then from that forward too, is just that he's always looking over his shoulder. And I've heard, police say before, other friends of mine and stuff, that you don't want to work too close to where you live for that very reason. Just because, think about that is, you're out there doing your job and whoever's messing around and finding out, you're just doing your job, but someone takes that personally and who knows what you're looking at. And this is in country as opposed to us overseas doing something, and I know sometimes the special operations community has some bleed over. There was one I knew that he was on vacation actually with his family, and all of a sudden he was like, we need to leave, which was an interesting, I had never heard of anybody else that happening to. And I was just like, that must have been, that's something I can't even imagine dealing with right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
100%.
Yeah, Phil. So, this is, I know I was getting off track a little bit there, but just what you're doing out there. What's the next step here other than you're scaling up? You have 120 members. This is across how many, you're doing a lot of remote capacity here. This started out as a grassroots in Charleston, but across the nation now at this point?
Yeah, we're across the nation. We've operated in 32 different states, 2 additional countries, and then Puerto Rico as well, right? We do have, little hotbeds where the awareness of us is starting to build. Obviously South Carolina, most of our mentors, or a lot of our mentors, I can't say most, are stationed or live around the Fort Liberty, Fort Bragg area. And then we partnered with the Orlando Regional VA Hospital. We got an MOU with them. And so they're actually prescribing us to veterans.
Oh, wow.
So we're starting to see that. And then, naturally, because Texas is a large veteran population, we're seeing, hotbeds in Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. And then along the Pacific coast, we're starting to see a lot in California popping up as well.
Sure. Is there
different states?
Yeah. Is there something to where like you're going to be possibly opening up? Like, I don't completely know. It's been a while since I've talked to you about the structure and whatnot of everything, but like, yeah, remotely, how does one get in touch with you guys? How does one find you guys besides warriorwod.org? You're across social but how do they get in touch with you and then apply for the program and start getting involved here?
Yeah, 100%. So, interesting enough, and I've been a naysayer of TikTok for a very, very long time, just out of, being old and a new platform. And
I don't understand it. Yeah, I get it.
And I always stereotypically, you just got to dance. And I was like, I don't dance. But randomly one day, I got on and I just talked about the veteran suicide problem. And overnight we had 80,000 followers. So
Oh my gosh.
find us through that avenue. Obviously, so other social media, Instagram and Facebook, we're at the Warrior WOD and all of those platforms. Word of mouth is happening a lot. We're starting to see some gyms that we've worked with continue to advocate for us. And podcasts like this allow us to also get a lot of awareness. We're now partnered with South Carolina Department of Veterans Affairs. And so we've got an MOU there. And so, that's a pipeline to us as well. But largely it's been word of mouth. And it is individuals like your listeners knowing somebody said, hey, I heard about this. You need to go to warriorwod.org. There's an application. It's a little cumbersome, but it's needed so that we can actually help you. We're asking very strategic questions so we know that you're the right person for our program. Through there's a bit of onboarding, an interview, and obviously you have to invest in your own journey. So, yes, I can pick up a phone and call a gym. I can do that. Now you multiply that by 120 times, that gets real fast.
Gets to be rough.
But when we mandate that you have to run the coordination to see how invested you are. If you're wanting help and you want us to pay for your gym membership for 6 months and cover your nutrition coaching for 6 months and pair you up with a battle buddy for 6 months, we expect, and I think it's very, very fair that you invest in your own future. You got to do at least 51% of the work and we'll do 49, right? And with that, you, as a part of the onboarding process, you've got to go to the gym. If they offer a free class, go do the free class. And it's not because we don't want to do the work. It's because we want you to go and make sure that vibe is the right vibe.
Yep. And that actually is a big thing. The vibe between the gym, the fact of somebody, for lack of any other better term, I just used this the other day with somebody too, but really this is the truth, is you got to have a little bit of skin in the game. If there's no investment.
And that whole, analogy, or maybe not analogy, but you could lead a horse to water, can't force him to drink. I can give you the gym membership, but if you're not invested enough to go to the gym, it's not going to work. If you're not invested enough to do the nutrition that we work with you on, it's not going to work. If you're not invested enough to talk to your battle buddy. And we have to pay for that. So what ends up happening is
exactly
where we could have allocated to somebody that was actually invested in it. And that's going to
be and
if you're not going to do the work, you're not going to get the benefit. I would much rather spend that $1,500 on somebody that we can move the needle on. And the reality is it may still be a good program for you, but maybe not right now.
Yeah. And that's another thing too, and again, as well, everything is scalable. That was one of the things with CrossFit, or at least the CrossFit facility that I came across up this way. That was one of the biggest things that was for me, was that he was big on form, and making sure that the members were following the right, that was, you see that in CrossFit a lot. There's a bunch of injuries and stuff from particular coaches that aren't investing into the people there. But this one in particular was like, no. If you're not at that level, this is where you're at. You can scale up to here, but let's use these same movements, and the same thing. Somebody might need to get started a certain way and scale up to the point to where they are. So, there's enough free YouTube workouts and stuff like that as well. Is that actually something that you guys do at all? Because I know that you were publishing workouts for a while. Are you guys still doing that?
Yeah, we do it internally to our Facebook group.
Okay.
And so we do. Now, I do want to be clear, and I know you know this, but I want to make sure that the audience knows this as well.
Yeah.
We are not CrossFit. For the veterans in our program, you go pick the gym. I don't care what modality it is. We've had jiu-jitsu, we've had rock climbing, we've had Orange Theory, we had mom and pops, we had Gold's gyms. Hell, I had one individual in Seattle that did hula hoop dancing. Literally, that was the gym. We had individuals in their 70s, and their gym was go walk around the neighborhood for 30 minutes. And we've had
the main point is get up and move. Yeah.
It's just move, right? And I wanted to be very clear about that because for a long time that was kind of a perception of us is that we aligned with CrossFit. We don't align with CrossFit. I don't care what modality it is. Go move your body. Just go move your body.
I probably should have started with that, honestly, is go through is that this is not and you said it a few times. I'm not part of the cult, and it usually when someone says that they are part of the cult, Phil. No, I'm joking, but
it's interesting. I do subscribe to it, but I think it's now because I've kind of mastered this the skills where I can do just about everything. Maybe not well, but I can do everything. But I also, just so people understand, yes, I still do CrossFit. I do it 3 times a week, but I also do Orange Theory twice a week.
Yep.
Right. And then I also walk around the neighborhood. I do stuff at my own house. The reality is go move your body. Just go move your body. Go outside and move your body. That's another aspect of it too, right? When the actual sunlight, not fluorescent lights, but sunlight hits your eyes, the dopamine, the serotonin, all of those things are happening, right? So yes, I'm still kind of in the cult. I've got my membership card, but I also have a membership card at other areas as well.
Yeah, it again, you said it time and time again. It's move, in different ways. We're made to move as humans. We're not meant to be what's kind of, I guess, really, I don't know exactly when this changed, but that sitting down at a desk kind of thing and being sedentary all day, it's not good for you. It's not good for a human. You look at the dynamics of how someone is put together and how the human body moves, and really, it's pretty clear to see that type of lifestyle is not meant for that physiology.
100%. 100%, and we can nerd out about the anatomy, we nerd out about evolution and neuroscience and everything else. But you're 100% right. Our bodies were meant to move, and our bodies were meant to recover and repair itself through movement as well.
Really quick, Phil, do you guys have any events coming up soon?
Yes. So in Charleston, Charleston Southern University is hosting a 5K for us on our benefit. And so that's March 29th. We're still putting down some coordination, but once a quarter we have what's called hero workouts. And so we have a Beaver Fit trailer that we pull out. People come. It's a big event. It's veterans and non-veterans. It's the whole community. We're still locking in those dates. We're working with a bunch of gyms in the Fayetteville area for Memorial Day. We're going to do 24 heroes. Each gym is going to pick one, kind of that same concept that Shannon did earlier. They're going to put together their own hero WOD, but it needs to be from someone that is homegrown, right? That they care about. So there's going to be a unique spin on the 24 heroes. Last year, we actually had 2 guys run Murph for 24 hours straight.
Oh.
I did it 21 times without a flak jacket or a weighted vest. And one guy did it 9 times, but he did have his weighted vest.
Wow. That's insane right there.
And then we haven't figured out what the event's going to be. But for the Marine Corps birthday, we always do a big event. That cult I am a part of. And I buy into it really big, but we had an individual, Brian White. Let me sing this guy's praises. He's, retired Marine himself. He got out as a chief warrant officer. He was a gunner. Just an amazing dude. And he was like, listen, I'm going to do the world's toughest mutter. And so it's 24 hours of running a 5-mile loop of Tough Mudder straight.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he ran 50 miles that night. And all the proceeds came to us and enabling us to get to where we're at to help veterans. So we do have events throughout the year. And if you're a listener and you have a gym, whether you're a member or an owner, one of the things we've seen a lot of people do is host fundraisers. Maybe it is just a donation workout on a Saturday that to show up, you donate X amount, or it's a in-house competition that people pay and you donate. But we've seen a lot of those popping up as well, where these gyms that we're working with and gyms that want to partner with us, even though they don't have a veteran of ours, they will host a event to raise money for what we're doing.
Very cool. Yeah. So warriorwod.org. You can sign up to help out with the events. I guess if you have a gym facility, you can talk to Phil, get in touch with, not that hard through the website. Yeah. You can get everything else through there. But man, I mean, Phil, I can't wait to see this thing scale. I mean, really, a year from now, we'll get back in touch. We'll get you back on and stuff and see where it's gone. But do you want to leave us with anything that either an aha moment, kind of that realization of where you realized that this was something that you wanted to be doing, that this was the purpose where it was headed, or maybe something that you could leave to where you wish you had, actually, why not both? Something that you wish you had known at the very beginning, something that where you're at now, you wish you could have gone and said to yourself at the beginning.
Yeah. So
it's two very different questions.
In the beginning, kind of that aha moment was, like I told you, I got that text message and I was like, I'm never going to be on the sideline again. And when we started this, we said, if we could save one veteran's life, and it took us 20 years of working, that one person's life is worth all the efforts. And I'm very proud to say that I know of 9 of just last year. And so I think, that in itself kind of answers both of them. We came in on a mission of saving lives. And if it was just one, it was worth the whole fight. But the reality is that I didn't understand the magnitude of moving your body, eating well, and mentorship really did have. It goes against a lot of medical theories and practices, but we're seeing the results. We're seeing people. The world is a better place because of these 9 individuals. There are 9 individuals that their spouse, husband or wife, their mother or father, if they're still alive, their kids, if they have any, their whole network of people are better because they lived another day, right? And so the world in itself is a better place because these 9 individuals are walking on it.
And I would even argue to go further to say that it's a better place because you were posed the question, why or what if? And you rose your hand and said, okay, send me. Yeah. And you started down this journey. And Phil, honestly, this is something awesome to have been in touch with you and watch it grown to what it is now and what you're doing and seeing the possibility of where this is going. It's awesome.
I appreciate it. I truly do. This has been an awesome conversation. Listeners, seriously, if you know somebody struggling, give them help, whether it's Warrior WOD or some of the other amazing organizations. Let's get them help. Let's make sure that we are actively, whether veteran or not, reduce the suicide rates. But I want to leave with this one picture. And I think most people have seen the Vietnam Memorial, right? The Vietnam Memorial. I was in Greenville, South Carolina, talking to a group of gentlemen. Most of them retired, so all veterans. And I saw a lot of gray hair. So I asked the question, anybody served in the Vietnam War? And one gentleman put his hand up and said, I did. And I was like, all right. And so I started talking to him directly, but amongst this crowd of people, I said, sir, have you ever seen the Vietnam Memorial in D.C.? He's like, yes, sir. How many people or how many names are etched in stone there? He goes, way too many. And he started crying, way too many. And so I took a step back and I was like, 58,000 names put on there. And again, my grandfather, 3 tours. And I went to D.C. with him and watched this man that I've never seen raise his voice or really show emotion, cry. And I'm not talking about just a tear, like cry.
Yeah.
At that. 58,000. One's too many. One's absolutely too many. Then I asked the question, it's like, when we look at the dynamic, how many veterans take their lives every single year? 6,100 on average since 9/11. On average. So that's 6,100. How many people lose their lives every year to substance abuse? And I'm talking very specifically veterans. So that's another 6,000. That's 12,000 people that are no longer here, no longer allowed to make the world a better place. It's 12,000 networks that are lost because of that. There's 12,000 people that are hurting inside because their loved ones no longer with us. If we were to build a monument to those that have lost the battle in their minds since 9/11, just since 9/11, how big do you think that would be?
Oh man, I've seen this number before on some of those, and it's appalling. It's huge. I don't have it in front of me.
Times bigger, 4.5 times bigger than the Vietnam Memorial. So if you've ever seen that memorial, now visualize it 4.5 times bigger. 264,000 people that have served our country, that's given us the freedoms that we have. It has taken their lives, either slowly through substance abuse or quickly through suicide because their demons were so bad that they needed to numb them. Right? How many people did we lose in Iraq and Afghanistan?
Oh, I know the number's not even close to. It's one of the lowest.
7,000.
Yeah.
So every year we lose
far more. Far more.
Yeah, it was a 20-year war, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is real. The problem is absolutely real. And so as we go out every single day, this is my ask to people. When you and I started talking, you asked me how I'm doing, and I responded with good, right? The reality is, I'm not good. You're not good. Nobody's good.
Yeah.
You may be survive.
It's a catch-all.
Yeah. and so this is the ask. Next time you talk to somebody, and every one of your listeners, next time you talk to somebody, go, how are you doing? And they just give you the response, good, because that's what we're taught to do from society. Go, no, seriously, Will, how are you doing, dude? Like, I actually do care.
Yeah.
And listen. And then you'll get, man, I wasn't going to tell anybody, but like, I'm struggling with this, or work is hell right now. Everybody's carrying demons. It's time for us to start actually caring about them and not just checking the box, how are you doing?
Yeah. Well, for one, I'm glad that you're out there, Phil, doing that. I know that's one of the things I've received those calls, or I've had those talks all too often myself with some of the guys that I served with. And I try to keep up on that because it's something that's necessary, that we should be reaching out to those around us or within our lives, or that we know, whether, even if it's loosely, just what does it take? A quick text message or something sometimes, or just a call. Hey man, just wanted to catch up with you. How's life? How's things doing? And you'd be surprised at how much people will open up, especially if they already have that built-in rapport. If it's someone that you served with, or they know that, you're a veteran and stuff, and you guys have a sidebar or something. It makes a big difference. Absolutely. But Phil, thank you for being out there doing what you're doing and putting together the program that you have and continuing getting after it. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing about that too. We're going to try and push this out to as many people as possible. And I'd argue to say that, for the guys that are guys, women, anybody who's listening, spread the word out there about the fact that these programs do exist and that we're a lot better off from these efforts being out there and from these changes happening within the community. So Phil, thank you. Hang tight, as I'm going to talk to you afterwards really quick, but thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Veteran Success Story. If you found anything in this episode useful, or something that might affect or be useful to somebody else in your life, spread the word, not only about this episode, about the show. This is something to where I'm going to continually keep bringing on
guests to not only deal with, not only help inspire other veterans out there to do their own thing, but help spread information on programs that are working, some unbelievable people that are working out there within the veteran community. So like it, follow, subscribe, whichever one. I don't have any of the Patreons or the pay stuff, and I'm trying to actually stay away from any of that so that everyone can have a show without interruptions, besides my ramblings in between. So Warrior WOD, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode and the information, but you can find out more at warriorwod.org, and kind of vested within that site is, it's the easiest way to get there. Most social media is just at the Warrior WOD, but by going through warriorwod.org, you end up getting the full official link tree. Make sure that you're going to the right sites, as I know sometimes some of these nonprofits and stuff, there's duplicates, there's scams out there. But this is a program that I see a bunch of potential in, and I know I've talked a few times with Phil about it down his journey. It's exciting to see this thing grow and what he's doing within servicing the veteran community, and just continuing. That's where he found his purpose and continues to serve in there. So it's great to see, and it was great to talk to him. Stay tuned. Next week we're gonna have another guest on, and man, you guys, I've got some really good episodes lined up for season 2, and we're just gonna continue getting these things going, continue spreading the information, and continuing to get better at this as well. But thank you for joining me, and this has been yet another veteran success story.